Welcome back, everyone, and thank you so much for being with me today. We learned so much from amazing speakers, and our last speaker today is Kahn. Merit is the CEO of SELLect Sales Development, author of Shift, Challenging the Truths That Sabotage Success, and co-host of the Smarter Sales Show podcast. She's a certified emotional intelligence coach and a certified speaking professional. Since '98, Merit has worked with salespeople, entrepreneurs, professionals, and sales teams, teaching them how to stop selling and start getting selected by their ideal clients. In her spare time, she's a stand-up comedian, counting down the days until she trades in her title, Single Parent for Empty Nester. And today she's going to walk us through 4 magic words that transform sales. Welcome, Merit. Thank you so much for being today with me.
Thank you for having me, Diana. Happy to be here.
I am looking forward to learning from you. It's an amazing bio, stand-up comedian and sales teacher.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I think that one has certainly helped the other. When I want to do more comedy shows, it helps that I know how to have a sales conversation to get more stages. And when I want to be more influential on my in my keynotes and workshops and training sessions, learning how to lighten the mood and have people laugh as they learn has certainly helped the business side too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I truly believe in this, in the power of combining 2 different worlds, because this is what makes us authentic in the end and unique on the market. And I love that. I would like to start our interview today by asking you if you can tell us more about your story and how you started on this path of helping other people with their sales and also the stand-up comedian.
Well, absolutely. I think it was always a foregone conclusion that I would do something in the area of sales. My dad sold advertising, my mom sold real estate, my grandparents were in sales. So it was never really a question of what was I going to do with my life. It was more a question of what was I going to sell. And so I studied communications, advertising, journalism, all of those things. And throughout my life, I was always in front of people, making presentations, cheerleading, doing the plays. So I didn't know it at the time. I certainly couldn't have predicted that the activities that I was drawn to as a child would help me in my career as an adult, but that's sort of what came to pass. And somewhere along the way, I became a sales manager. I was working in the radio advertising business. And young in my career, I was a sales manager. And in that capacity, I had an opportunity to help coach and develop other people. And the best way that I've always learned to help others was to figure out what worked for me, get some coaching and training so I had awareness of some of the nuances of things that maybe I was doing naturally and some of the things that I didn't yet understand but learned through coaching and training. And I studied how to be a good manager. And it was in that role that I realized the parts of my job that I loved had to do with inspiring and helping other people. It had very little to do with the radio business. So when the radio station was being sold and I had one of those choice moments where I thought, do I go for another job in my industry or do I pivot and try something different? And it was very clear and it was made available to me by the training organization that I had participated in as a client. And they said, we think you'd be actually really good at delivering our programs. Would you be open to working with us? And I thought, yeah, that sounds really good. So that was in 1998. I've never looked back. I've been helping coach, train, develop people in sales and sales management capacities since then. And the more that I learn about what my clients have needed along the way, the more I went out to seek new things that would expand my expertise and help me be a better servant for them. And so that's where I learned about emotional intelligence. And I had a client that was really frustrated because they had spent tons of money on expensive turnover problems that they had had with their sales force. And so I learned how to help them better by helping them to select and onboard new salespeople. And so that became part of my offerings. And I I'm a good listener to what the marketplace needs, and then I find the ways that that I can do an appropriate project to help my clients serve those needs.
I love that. Thank you so much, Merit, for sharing that with us. And I know that we have many business owners and coaches on our platform. And I know that many of them are at the beginning. And I know also from my own experience that sometimes sales can mean that we are pushy, that we don't really have a good image. It's about the salespeople. And I know that once you start working with your mindset and start realizing that it's not about that, something changes in yourself and also for your clients. What would you say to those people who are still in this mindset, who struggle maybe with making sales because something is stopping them in their self, in their limiting beliefs, or something is happening in their mind? What can you advise them to do?
Yeah, such a great point. And most of the people that I've worked with over the course of my career, I would consider very good in their area of expertise. So a lot of people wouldn't necessarily call themselves salespeople, right? They're professionals, they're experts, they're coaches. They know their craft so well. That's why they open a business or leave a company and do something on their own. And the very first realization you have is it really isn't good enough to be good at what you do. You have to be great at getting the business. Otherwise, it's so frustrating because the guy down the hall gets the business. Maybe he's not as good at delivering the results as you are, but he's better at marketing. He's better at sales. He's better at how to connect with prospects in a way that's meaningful to them. And his business is crushing it. And you're scratching your head wondering, what am I doing wrong? I'm so good at what I do. And so I think that the first thing is you want to understand there are three aspects to being successful in anything that you do, certainly in sales. And those three things are mindset, mechanics, and motion. So if you think about it, mindset is what you think, mechanics is what you say, and motion is what you do. And oftentimes, people like you've described will come to me and say, I just need to learn the mechanics of selling. I just need to know what to say to close a deal, to shorten my sales cycle, to stop getting beat up for lower pricing. I need to know what to say to somebody that I just meet or in an email. And I'm certainly happy to meet you where you are and give you some ideas and work with you on different things you can say, because that might help shift your mindset and get you more in action. So that's how that works. But oftentimes, it is important to really look at some of those beliefs that you may have that could be sabotaging you without you even understanding it. And sometimes it's not just about a conscious belief. Sometimes it's about our wiring, and it may be totally transparent. So I'm going to give you an example that happened to me last night. And one of the things that I know about myself, so let me back up one more moment. When I talk about mindset, I think we hear that a lot, and certainly that's, something that your listeners are in tune to, because that's a passion of yours as well, and that's why we connected, is our love for the importance of a strong mindset. But it's always been frustrating for me. How do I work on that specifically? How do you know, where are you right now? And what is it that needs to shift? And so I really researched this. I really did a deep dive into the different aspects of mindset. And I came up with three categories that I think make up a strong mindset. And those are your internal mind, what you say to yourself, your behavioral mind, what your actions say to other people, and your emotional mind. And that's the way that you understand how emotions come into play, trigger you, and either and the impact that your emotions have on other people, right? So those three buckets. Now, when we look at internal mind, that's the best way to kind of understand what those beliefs are, and what is, when I observe, what is it that I say to myself? So do I say to myself, I'm worth $1 million? Or do I say to myself, $100,000 is a lot of money, right? Do I say to myself, I don't feel comfortable in a room of CEOs? Or do I say to myself, I am a CEO, these are my peers, right? So it's little things like that, how you feel about money, decision makers, etc. Your behavioral mind is about what your actions say to other people. So in this category, I find it very helpful to go to a tried and true behavioral style assessment. I use a version of the DISC profile, which is widely known and accepted as a good validated tool. And I think it's important that we understand our own wiring so that we can make the adjustments in our communication that make communicating easier for other people. So I'm not trying to change who I am. I'm trying to understand how I interact with people and figure out quickly, based on some subtle cues, how somebody else is comfortable communicating and behaving out there in the world. And then it's my choice. And generally my choice is I want to make it as easy and comfortable as possible for you to, within the style that's comfortable for you, I want to adjust my approach to give you what you need. I'm not hardwired as a very analytical thinker. I don't need a lot of facts. I make my decisions oftentimes on emotion and story and connection and relationship. So when I go to market and I'm selling, my go-to method, no matter what I've learned in training, is going to be that other people make decisions based on stories and emotions and connections and relationships. But what I know to be true is if I'm talking with somebody who's highly analytical, it would be valuable for me and for them if I adjust my approach, find some facts and figures to share those with them, because that's what makes them comfortable. And so I want to meet people where they are so that they can select to do business with me. And on that note, we do call our company SELLect Sales Development. We spell it SELLect, but we're actually training people to stop selling and to start getting selected. And the way you do that is meet people where they are, speak their language, ask great questions, and make appropriate offers. Also, stop the sales process as soon as you recognize that it's not appropriate to do business together. And that could be for a myriad of reasons. Let me just say the third piece of that mindset puzzle, which is emotional mindset. That's the one that's most fascinating. I started really studying that in 2008 when I got my certification in emotional intelligence. And that really helped me understand that no matter what somebody learns in a sales training course or any course, it's layered on top of the emotional wiring you have. So last night I had a great example. I'll share a little bit about me personally, Diana. So I'm a divorced woman, right? I go out. I go out on dates. So I had a date scheduled, and I was already on my way. We had a time and a place. And so I knew I was going to show up at that time and place. Well, right before I left, I went onto the app where we had met, and I noticed he wasn't on the lineup anymore. And I thought, well, that's strange. Like we have this date plan. So I'm sure he'll be there. Right. So I mean, he couldn't be just reconsidering and not wanting to go out with me. So I just went, and I sat there and I'm like, oh my God, I got stood up. Like, what just happened? And it was like, it took me a little moment, but immediately I'm like, oh, this is why I'm here. I score very high on optimism on my own emotional intelligence profile, very low on reality test. So even though all the signs, the reality was, if somebody unmatches with you the day of your date, you're about to get stood up. So it shows up everywhere. And that's why I think it's super important to understand how we're wired so that we can then understand the circumstances in business and our personal life everywhere and have a little bit more control. So had I tuned in to that high optimism, low reality testing combination that I know runs my life, I would have looked at that, fact that he's no longer on the app and then thought, oh yeah, reality check. He's not showing up. Like that's a no. And then I could have made a different decision. But I share that because, I think it's funny. I think even somebody who's highly trained and helps other people understand their wiring, sometimes we can still get caught in the same traps. So it's natural. We're all on a learning curve, but that's where the comedy comes in. I don't let things frustrate me for too long. I look at what's funny about this. And in that situation, what was funny about it was how I know myself so well and still so hopeful, so wide-eyed. It still turned out that way. But in sales, it would be the same thing. Somebody says, oh, I'm interested. I like what you're saying. I could see us working together. And if I hear that through my high optimism and I don't ask enough questions to test the reality, I might spend my commission check on the way home, which I have not received yet, right? I might think, oh yeah, that's a done deal. And then I'm even more disappointed if it doesn't turn out, as opposed to in business, I'm much more in tune. And I'll say, you know what, I appreciate that you're sharing that with me. Can I ask you a few questions just to make sure I'm understanding what it is that's getting you excited about our working together? And so now I'm balancing reality testing with my optimism. And that's the key to emotional intelligence, is being within balance. So I think that's what makes up a strong sales mindset. And those are some of the very specific ways that we work with people so that they're in balance. They've got a strong sales mindset in balance with the strong mechanics of selling, in balance with they know their action plan, they have consistent behaviors that they execute, we hold them accountable. And so all three of those important facets to being really open for business and successful are working for you instead of an aspect of that working against you, and then you not getting the result you want.
I love this. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Merida. Thank you for sharing that story with us, because this makes me realize that we are on a growing path, and that no matter how much we know, sometimes maybe we don't see it right away, as you mentioned, or we don't know how to apply it right away. And then we have to keep learning and keep discovering. And I know that many people are kind of getting stuck or blocked, or as you said, disappointed, and they don't move on. They don't go beyond that rejection that we call in sales, and we are getting stuck there. That person didn't like me. And I know that I did this in the past. I did it a lot I was focusing more on that one person who said no than on the other 20 persons who said yes. And this doesn't make sense, right? It's one person out of 21. So it really took me a long time to adjust to that. And I would like to ask you, because you mentioned some really valuable information and tips, I would like to ask you, do you think all of this can be applied also outside of the business environment? Meaning that, is it sales only about getting clients, or can sales be also in a career, for example, getting a promotion, or with your partner trying to negotiate something? What would you say?
Absolutely. I think, the thing about sales is, and some people don't like the word, and they don't want to consider themselves salespeople. Well, my question to you is, have you ever been in a position where you wanted to be more influential with somebody else? You wanted to influence them to see the restaurant, or to go to the movie that you want to see, or the restaurant you want to go to, or the vacation, right? It can be a myriad of things. Anybody who's a parent, guess what? You are in sales. You're selling eat your broccoli. You're selling go to bed on time. I mean, it's all about clear and effective communication. It's all about bringing somebody else's defense wall down so that you can have an authentic business conversation, or an authentic, personal conversation. But it used to be the ABCs of selling were always be closing. And the new ABCs of selling are authentic business conversations. So we really believe, and this is a core philosophy of SELLect sales development, and all of our clients are on board with this, is it's about alignment. It's about, really being a match for each other. And so I think this is really, certainly there's things that we would teach you in the business side about, asking questions to uncover budget and the decision-making process and some of these very business specific things. But beyond that, it's setting expectations, it's goal setting, it's working a plan, it's knowing your own strategy to recover from rejection, and all of these things. It's asking good questions. All of these things are things that have been equally beneficial in my personal life, or whether I'm going for a career move or any of that. It's making sure that you're ready for that next move, and then clearly communicating and demonstrating evidence to those around you that, yes, I'm ready. And people pick up on incongruent elements, right? So you might be saying the right thing, but if you're not fully aligned in your beliefs, it's going to come through in a subconscious way, and that energy is being picked up on by someone else. So you might be, that one of three to get this promotion. You've said all the right things, you've done all the right things, but there's something incongruent about your way of being, and they're picking up on it, and it's going to crush you. That's why the more you understand about how you're wired, the more you have control over making the adjustments that you want to make, that you are deliberately deciding, so that you can get to that next level, whatever that looks like for you.
I love that. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I would like to ask you, because you mentioned something that is, I believe, very valuable. You mentioned that some people are more on the factual side, so they want figures, they want to see statistics, they want to see the credibility factors, and other people are more on the emotions. I know that I am also on the emotional part. As you said, I take decisions based on what I feel, on my intuition. And as you mentioned, that you have to adjust, you have to adapt to the person and to the environment. And my question would be, how do we do that? Because if we go into a sales meeting, for example, we don't know the person. And does it mean that we have to be prepared with everything and put it on the table? Or how do we do it? How do we identify what the person needs?
Well, there's a couple of things. So first of all, I'm a big believer in just ask. One of the things that I learned early in my career was, I was told, and maybe you've heard this before, act as if you are the success you want to be. And, at the time I was young, I didn't question it. And I did. And I went out there in the world, totally unconfident and acting confident. Totally not understanding what was important in someone else's buying decision process, and pretending that I understood exactly what they wanted and needed. What I learned later, and I wish I had learned it earlier, was to stop acting as if I had it all figured out, and to start asking as if I really did want to figure it out. And so today, my advice would be, if you're in a situation and you would like to know quickly how the person you're interacting with, or the committee or the group or whatever, what's important to them in understanding in the conversation you're about to have, I would simply say, hey, I know sometimes when I sit down with people, they really want to hear case studies, stories, examples of how we've worked. And other people are really much more focused on the statistics, the analytics, and they want to talk about the numbers. And I just, I just want to make sure I'm giving you what you need in our conversation today, so at the end we can both make a good decision about whether it makes sense for us to do business together or move on to the next phase of the sales process. What would help you more? Or would you like some case studies, or should we talk numbers? I mean, why not just ask the question? That way they get what they want and need to make good decisions about just whether or not you're a good fit for them. And you don't have to guess at the language that is going to make the difference for them. You are prepared, even if it's not your natural style, you've got enough facts and figures to back up the stories. And PS, it may be that the ways that you describe how you work with people have both baked in already. You know, you're going to come across people who are facts and figures and stories. And this is just one example. But if you bake that into your stories, you know, then you're going to be in a good spot overall.
Yes, absolutely. I fully agree with you. And the last question I would like to ask you, because I can go on forever, is about the authenticity. Because I participated to many trainings, many seminars, and I am sure that also our audience did the same. And they are teaching a sort of script on the sales. And the issue what I see right now is because everyone learned that script. Whenever I hear it, I recognize it. And I get into a mode of skepticism, or I don't really want to hear because I know that it's just a script. What would you advise those people who are trying to become more authentic, who want to make a conversation in the sales meeting instead of just trying to sell and stick to the script? What would you advise them to do?
Well, interestingly, I think I learned this from studying comedy. When I do stand-up comedy, it's very scripted. Every word matters. I'm very deliberate about a specific word or a number of syllables. I mean, you know, if you really study stand-up, it's a complete art, but it's also a science. Having said that, if you go to a show, you know that there's moments when the comedian makes it look like they're interacting with the audience and it's totally off the cuff. And sometimes it is totally off the cuff, but oftentimes those responses are planned and programmed, but they happen naturally. I don't know when I'm going to use this quick comeback that I've thought of that somebody, you know, based on somebody's response, but I know it's in there. And so I take that same lesson, I apply it to my business. And what we do is we teach formulas. So instead of teaching you a script, this is exactly what to say, which is going to sound inauthentic because you and I are wired differently. It does, you know, the way that I would speak naturally is not the same way that you would. And I think when people pick up on that, it doesn't sound genuine. And then it makes you question, are they going to tell me the truth? And that's, you know, we all know that we want to be somebody that people know, like, and trust, right? Those are the, you know, the keys to entry. And I think the way to get around that is to not try to memorize scripts, but to look for the formula in the script. So for example, when we teach, you know, how to set the expectations at the beginning of a sales call or any conversation, really, we teach a formula. We call it PLAN, PLAN, purpose, logistics, agenda, next steps. I don't care what words you pick or what the situation is, but always start the initial communication with a plan. You know, hi, Diana, great to meet with you. I'm super excited. We're going to have this conversation, and the purpose, as you know, when we talked, was to figure out if we're going to be a good match to work together. You had a sales, you know, you're hiring a salesperson. So I know we've got 30 minutes blocked out. Is that what you have? Yeah, great. Well, here's what's on my agenda. I just want to ask you some questions and better understand what you've tried and how that worked, and see if, you know, if we can offer anything different. What's on your agenda? It's a dialogue. And then you say, great. So we've got 30 minutes. Why don't we just do this? So when we get to about minute 25, let's figure out if we're comfortable and what makes sense for a next step. Sound good? Sure. Now, it's not a script. If I did that again, I would never have picked the same words, but you'll see the flow of it because it always follows the same formula. So I think that there are good formulas to be taught to help you feel more in control of your sales process at every step of the way. And as long as you follow different formulas, you'll be always in control and it'll always be authentic to you. And, you know, yeah, that's all I'll say about that.
This is fascinating. Thank you so much, Merit, because I really believe in it. I believe that we can change our mindset around sales. And it doesn't have to be pushy. It doesn't have to be someone who just gives and gives the product. Okay, here it is, just buy it because I'm desperate. I really believe in it. And you mentioned that you are working to attract the clients to you, and also with your clients to attract clients to them and not the other way around. And this is something that I believe doesn't exist so much on the market. It's more like, okay, I give you, and just take it whenever you want. So I really believe in it. I really believe in your work. Thank you so much for sharing all of these tips with us. I believe that everyone learned a lot. I would like to ask you before we close today, who are you serving and how can people contact you?
Oh, great. So we do two main things in our business. I do keynote speaking, large conferences, corporate sales kickoff meetings, where really we're opening people's minds to new possibilities. It's a great match if there's change in your industry and you have to get people on board, or if you're psyching them up for new things that you want them to accomplish in the business. So that's one thing that we do. And the other thing is we do online courses and on-site training programs for a myriad of different kinds of clients. But all of our clients sell something custom, creative, consultative, or complex. If you can click here, buy now, that's probably not the best match for our type of sales programs. So if you're in a consultative type of sales process, we work with sales teams and entrepreneurs, and we help you shorten the sales cycle and stop getting stuck. The best way to contact me would be through the meritkahn.com website. So it's MERITKAHN.com. And if you put /podcast, there are some resources on that special page that I only talk about with podcasts I'm interviewed on. So your audience can get some free bonus offers, some downloads. And when you fill out that little form on that page, that'll get you into our network, our universe. You'll learn about the comedy shows that I'm doing, and you'll learn about some of the amazing programs that we offer, and you'll get some special deals. So
thank you so much, Merit. You inspire me.
Thank you.
I love this, and I am honored to have you here in this show. I know that everyone learned, and I learned a lot from you. Thank you once again for being today with me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.